Hello guys, and welcome to this new video. So we are today with the first game of the quarter-final of the Fide World Chess Cup in Baku 2015. We will watch a game between Pavel Eljanov and Hikaru Nakamura. So Nakamura is the second chess player in the world in the live rating when we are starting this game. And Eljanov is rated somewhere 27-25 in the FIDE rating, but he's about 2750. He almost won already 30 points in the live rating. Though Eljanov never really competed in top GM's tournament. I mean, the one like the Sinkofi Cup we had. Where you have players like Carlsen, Giri, Nakamura, Topalov, Anand. He's not a player of this pedigree, but he's playing really impressively in this World Cup. He beat earlier in the tournament Grichuk, by example. He knocked him out without playing rapid chess, just in the classical games. And he's playing some good old school Soviet chess, I would say. So let's go to watch this game. d4, d5, knight f3, knight f6, c4, e6, pawn to g3. So I'm making the first stop here. This is the Catalan. So the bishop is coming to g2, and he will try to dominate this long diagonal going from h1 to a8. And that would be the problems that black has to deal with. He will have to contest this diagonal somehow earlier or later. Well, we'll see a lot of variation, and we'll see later on how it happens. So bishop e7, bishop g2 is taking control of the diagonal. Short castle, sorry, it's black to play short castle. And here pawn takes c4. So often in the Catalan, black is taking the pawn because white needs time to take it back, at least 2 moves. And black will try to organize some counterplay with c5 quickly to destroy the center, a bit like in the Slav game. And then bring the bishop. I mean, some variation can land to b7. In other variation, it lands to c6. And finally contest this long diagonal, not to get problem with the pawn b7, or not to make sure not to get problem with the pawn b7. So white goes queen c2, threatening to grab the pawn. Black can't really protect it. If you play b5 to protect the pawn, it's met, I guess, by knight e5, and your rook is going to die. No, this is the wrong arrow. Pretty soon. So you can't go b5, he goes a6. Sorry, this is a5. This is a6. This idea is pretty classical also. The thing is that now if you play queen takes c4, black plays b5, threatening the queen, so we have no time to play knight e5, obviously. The queen would be taken. Queen to c2 and bishop b7. And here black was able to contest this young diagonal, and he will be able to play maybe knight bd7, rook c8, and pawn to c5, having a good game already equalized. So white's not taking the pawn immediately. He plays pawn to a4 first. So again, b5 unplayable, this time just because we take it. And if b6, if you want to bring the bishop to b7, again this knight e5 move. So that's the problem, you have no time to contest the diagonal. So black goes bishop d7, queen takes c4 now, and bishop to c6. So this is still theoretical, just explaining the ideas. So now the thing is that the bishop came to contest the long diagonal, but the pawn can't be pushed to c5 for the moment. So, well, it has its up and down, but we'll be able to bring the bishop to d5 and then play c5. So white goes bishop g5, developing the pieces, bishop d5. Here we have the move queen d3, which is theoretical. This is the main line. I do remember it's met by c5, and this is a long game going. So white goes queen c2. It's a bit less popular line, but the idea is clear. It's to stop the pawn from coming to c5. Black goes bishop e4, still theoretical. Here, I believe it was in a game of Nakamura even, maybe against Anand, the move queen d1 was played quite a long time ago. The thing of queen d1 is that the move c5 is also coming pretty quickly. So Eljanov decides to go queen c1, keeping an eye on c5 to make sure you cannot play that. Black goes pawn to h6. White takes the knight, bishop takes. So we keep the bishop pair here, but we bring the bishop away from this square. So this is the idea, it's just because black will have to bring the bishop back in order to play c5. White goes rook d1. Black goes pawn to a5, taking some space. This is theoretical. White goes knight b d2, attacking the bishop, and here it will be the end of the theory as Nakamura plays the novelty bishop h7. The classical way to play is bishop f3, bishop takes f3, straightening the pawn, this one, pawn to c6, knight c4, and knight d7. So this is a typical Catalan position. White is somehow applying some pressure on this pawn structure. So black now is sitting a bit like in a Scandinavia or in a Caro-Kann with those pawns like that. So he'll bring the queen to c8 and the rooks over there, queen on c7 and hooks over there to try to push c5 a bit later on. White has a slight advantage, a space advantage at least, and a more comfortable position to play. It's passive for white, and it's passive for black, sorry, and white is going to apply some pressure. So I think it was a good choice opening. That's where Eljanov wanted to go. This was a good choice opening for white, as Nakamura doesn't like to sit in defense for quite a long time. So being in the quarterfinal of the World Chess Championship, this was a really decent opening choice. But Nakamura goes with a novelty, plays bishop h7. So the bishop drives away the long diagonal. I don't quite like it because it's hard to see how you play c5 here now. And I mean, this bishop is kind of doing something. But well, I mean, no, I mean, it's not a bad move, definitely. But I mean, interesting to see how you will contest the diagonal. So white goes here knight b3, just preparing to go to c5 and forcing the square. Pawn c6, queen c3. So we have a look on the pawn a5. Bishop e7, knight to c5, attacking the pawn. Queen c7, defending, and knight to e5. So white bring these two knights on the dark squares, e5 and c5. He has no direct threats, but he's looking at a lot of black pawns, and we could imagine at some point a knight takes f7 sacrifice, or a knight takes b7 sacrifice, or even maybe knight e6 in some situations. So those two knights not restraining because the pawns are defended, but they are kind of making a lot of fork, and combined with the bishop on the long diagonal, on this diagonal, the queen that can come to c4 looking at this diagonal, it's not very comfortable for black. By example, black went knight a6, and we'll see the game will take a very interesting path after that. If we played, by example, rook d8, just went with a move that looks logical. White can go queen c4, try as kind of threatening knight f7, king f7, knight e6 with a fork. Black goes, by example, bishop d6 to defend the pawn. And bishop f3, white now wants to play bishop h5 and thread the pawn f7. You see, it's not that easy to move with black in this position. It's really not that obvious how to develop your pieces, because somehow we have the feeling a knight sack is coming. And that's what happened in the game. So after knight f5, e5, he played knight a6. And now Eljanov is playing a very strong, at least very interesting, but I would say strong move, knight takes b7. So he's sacking a piece for 2 pawns and a rook. So bishop takes c6 now. So obviously white is going to win back the rook. And here Nakamura makes a wrong decision. He goes queen to c7. He would better go queen a7, bishop a8, bishop b4, threatening the queen, queen c6, and queen takes a8. And we will see that, I mean, white is better here. White is better. I mean, I've been reading over the internet that this line was analyzed, and some grandmasters said they think it's black doesn't have real problems. I mean, you should bring this one to a draw probably, but you are going to suffer a bit. I mean, it's 2 pawns. It's 2 pawns and the rook for the 2 bishops. But I mean, we have a center with white pushing the pawns. This pawn on a5 may be a bit awkward. So I mean, white should be able to apply some kind of pressure here because it has more activity and it has a strong pawn center. But I think black would have good chance to draw. The way he played it by queen c7, bishop a8, it's forcing now. Queen c3, pawn c3, rook a8, and knight c6. The difference here, why it's harder for black to defend, is that, I mean, okay, we are straining the pawn and the bishop, so bishop d8 is forced to protect the pawn, knight takes d8, rook takes d8, and the thing now is that white has 2 pawns and a rook against a knight and a bishop, and clearly it's better to have 2 bishops. I mean, so the first thing is that we lost the bishop pair, so this is a bad thing. The other bad thing is that now this pawn is not on b2. The pawn on b2 could not be pushed to b4 because this pawn on a5 is protecting it. The pawn on c3, it's a passed pawn. So it's a better one. First of all, it's a passed pawn, so it's a better one. And the second thing is that it's a pawn that went toward the center. So now the white center is even stronger. And Eljanov's playing the first move I really love. Not too hard to find, but still a move you have to remember. Pawn to f3. Pawn to f3, really simple idea to bring the pawn to e4 and kind of bury this bishop on f7. Also now the king is marching toward the center, so a good move. Black goes rook c8, rook a3. So we defend the pawn. This knight for the moment is not active. It needs at least 2 moves to come back, but it will not be able to come back to d5 because the pawn will be on e4. So hard job for him. Bishop g6, king f2, bringing the king. Rook b8, taking the open file. Rook d2. We don't want to let the rook come on the second file. Second rank, sorry. Pawn to f6. And rook a2. This is a good move because now white wants to activate the rook on the open file. As you, I mean, it's understandable that a rook loves open files. I mean, because it goes up and down. So you need to take control of the open file, and as you have 2 rook against 1, black will not be able to contest. So black goes rook b3, rook b2, rook takes c3, rook b5. So we are exchanging the c3 pawn against the a5 pawn, bishop c2, and rook takes a5. So what black is trying to do is to limitate the rook. Look, the rook and the bishop, they are playing well against this rook. This rook is kind of blocked for the moment, and so those 2 pieces are paralyzing this guy. So now white can only try to make progress with the other rook, and he's going to be able to do so because now he has a passed pawn. And when you have rooks against pieces, you love to get passed pawn because the 2 pieces have a lot of problem to stop the pawn. Because when they will stop the pawn, you will see they cannot attack the pawn. So it's like a pawn is paralyzing 2 pieces somehow. Let's say 1.5. You will see how it happens. So it's important for you to remember when you have the rook against the light pieces, always try to get a passed pawn and push it forward. So the knight is attacked, knight c7, rook a7. So the rook comes on the 7th file and the pawn is being able to be pushed. Pawn f5, so he's contesting the e4 square. Pawn to a5, and so white keeps pushing the pawn. King h7, so the king goes away from the checks, doesn't want to be checked by the rooks. Rook b7 now. So we are slowly but surely preparing the push of this pawn. We don't want to play a6, because if you play a6, this rook would be committed to the pawn. So you cannot move the a7 rook and you cannot move the d2 rook. So it would be hard to push further. So first of all, we bring the rook to b7. And we better this time go to b6 and then push the pawn on a6. This is not always the case that you love to protect the pawn from the side. But in this precise situation, this is the good thing to do. Rook c4, straining the pawn on d4. I mean, not straining, but I mean adding pressure. Rook b6, bishop to a4. So black is trying to come back to d5 to stop this pawn. Pawn to a6, bishop c6, pawn a7, and look at that, that's what we talked about. The two pieces are committed to stop the pawn, and they cannot play to attack the pawn. So, I mean, that's just to show you how the pieces have problem to deal with that. A rook would just be on a4 and would attack the pawn, stop the pawn and attack it. The pieces can only stop the pawn, so it's a bit harder. Black goes bishop to d5, so the bishop is on the right spot, protecting the pawn, protected by the pawn, and looking at the a8 square. And here black has a very strong threat. He's threatening rook a4, winning the pawn. White would not be able to protect it, and so white is playing a very good move. He's sacking the pawn on d4. He's playing rook a2, threatening rook a5 and rook c5. But I mean, black is taking the pawn. So now we can play rook to c2. So you see two open files, and the two rooks are on it. The knight has to move. a8 is the only square to go. If you go, by example, rook c4 to stop the attack, it would just be met by rook takes, bishop takes, and rook to c6, attacking both pieces. So black is playing knight a8, and white goes rook to a6. The thing now is that if you go rook b8, which might look better at the first sight, it's made by rook a4. And as I said, the rook is really strong when it comes on the file where the pawn is. So white can defend the pawn and the game will be drawn. So white goes rook to a6 now. It's protecting the pawn. Rook to d1. Pawn to h4. And white is taking now some space on the queen side, so maybe he wants to play h5, and he will try to go maybe to give a checkmate like that, if he can play h5. So the threat is really strong because the king would be really in troubles, and if you would play, by example, g6, I mean it's really a problem to give white chance to give checks like that. By example, rook d6, king g7, and rook to c8. And the fact that we can give checks here is giving us a lot of activity. And in fact, rook d5 and rook a8 might come on the really next move. So black goes h5. And now that we force black to go h5, can you find a plan? Can you see a plan now that could how to say that? Well, it should just be a natural step to continue our domination of the black pieces. I give you 10 seconds and I will give you a hint. So if you don't want the hint, just stop the video now. The hint is that if you remember a game of Nigel short, it will be easier for you to find the plan. So 10 seconds from now. Okay, and the thing is that now the pawn was pushed on h5. We have a pass for this king, and we can bring it to g5 and kind of attack the king, who will use the same idea from going behind to checkmate him. And so we play king e3. Black has absolutely no control on the dark squares, so he goes rook g1, attacking the pawn on g3. Doesn't make much. King f4. Here he went rook g2. I tried the passive defense just to show you what happens. You go rook d1, by example rook a5, adding pressure to the knight, king to the bishop, king g6, rook to c8, threatening rook takes and rook takes, bishop b7, rook e8, attacking the pawn, king f7, rook b8 now, attacking the bishop, rook d7. So we got this passive defense I've been talking about. Now king g5, threatening the pawn, pawn to g6 forced, and rook to h8. Now we are threatening rook h7, king g7, and rook to h6. So black passively defend, and now white is going to win the g6 pawn and the h5 pawn, and the a7 pawn is still on the board and is still a very big problem for black to deal with. So white is absolutely winning. Just an example of what happens if you defend passively. So it goes rook g2. He's trying to kind of make some threats and stop the king from going to g5 because he attacks the pawn g3. No problem. White goes rook d6. So he activates the two. So now he has two rooks against two pieces, and he has his pawn. So his idea is simple: rook c8, rook takes d5, and rook takes a8. Rook to g1, rook to c8, having the threat. Rook to a1 now. So white could play rook takes d5, pawn takes d5, rook takes a8, and king g6. But with the pawn on a7, it's never too easy to win, because when the king comes, you get to face you have to face checks. So by example, king a5 and rook a5. And I mean, when you will go toward b6, on c6, the rook will come back and he will give you checks from behind. This should be winning, of course. It's 4 against 4 with a pawn up, and the pawn structure is favorable for white. But it's easy to make a mistake in those rook endgames and just to let the game slip and to be a drone. As you know, famous quotation, don't remember who said that, but maybe it's Podvinik, isn't it? That said that, or maybe Tarash, can't remember, but all the rook endgames are drawn. So this is a quotation you have to, a quote you have to, a quote, not a quotation, a quote. That you have to remember, because if you can avoid to go to the rook endgame, it's always better. It's more sure to win. So he goes king to g5 now. No more problems with the pawn g3. So he gives the pawn a7. So black takes it. But now rook d8, threatening the checkmate. So g6 the only move. And here Eljanov is missing a beautiful checkmate. The commentators missed that one as well. It was to play king f6, threatening rook h8 checkmate. King h6 forced. Rook h8. Rook h7. So that's why we play rook h6 to bring the rook through the 7 rank. And now rook to g8. And the thing is that we're threatening rook g6 checkmate. And if you take the rook, we simply take back the rook and make a very elegant checkmate. So Eljanov missed this one, but it's understandable. 5 hours of play, and I mean, you are playing for a place in semi-final of the World Chess Championship. You don't want to go with some weird move like king f6 and forget something. You just go with the technical and simple rook h8 check, king g7, rook no, he goes rook check, king f7, rook takes g6. It's more precise to go take the pawn this way. Rook a6, rook h7 check, king f8. So now the king. Also, we could have some checkmate ideas if the rook, by example, would land on b8. But anyway, it's simple. Rook takes h5. So we traded the a7 pawn for 2 pawns. And now the h pawn is passed. And this knight is very far from the action. So he tries to bring back the knight. Knight b6. Sorry, king h5, not rook h5. So king b6. Knight b6. King g5. Knight c4. Pawn h5. Knight d6. So the knight is back. But, I mean, he threats knight f7. So white goes rook f6 check, king g8. So knight f7 is not available, and rook d7. And, I mean, now black resigned because, I mean, you cannot bring back the knight. If you go knight to e8, by example, it would be met by rook g6, king f8, and rook takes d5. So you are losing the bishop. And I mean, if you don't move the knight, I mean, what can you do? The next moves coming are h6, h7, and rook f8 checkmate. So black is absolutely losing. A very, very, very convincing win by Pavel Eljanov. Very top class, top level player. Very, very beautiful play in the endgame. I mean, that was a very impressive game. Let's see if he can hold the draw with the black pieces on the second game. It's not going to be easy because Nakamura is a very strong attacking player, and he has to win, so we'll go all in with all his pieces, and we'll see of what is made Pavel Eljanov in the next game. I just want to go to have a quick look at Mamedyarov against Koryakin. So we also have two pieces against the rook, but this time it's black, it's the rook defending on the defense because I mean it's equality with the pawn. So white is trying to catch the pawn, goes bishop f2, king g6, knight e3. Here black had to play king g5, bishop g3 and rook b2, and it's really hard to keep the pawn, but I mean white is turning around and creating and searching for mistakes and for blunders. So black goes rook h2, and you will see that white could have won the pawn on h3 somehow. So king g3, rook h1, knight f5. So now white is trying to go knight h4, knight f3, knight h2, and king takes h3. So black is forced to push the pawn, knight h4 check, and knight h4 check, yeah. And this is the mistake. You will see why later on. It's a very elegant way. Okay, let me show it to you. White goes knight h4 check, king h7, knight f3, and here everybody thought that knight h2 is the next move coming, and black can't do anything. But he found a very elegant way to save the pawn. I give you 10 seconds to find it. You can pause the video. It's a very beautiful one. So the move that saved the day for Sergei Karyakin was rook g1 check. Now two possibilities. Either you play king takes h2 and black goes rook g4, and this is totally drawn. Either you take the rook, and here black doesn't take back your knight. He goes h1 queen. I don't care. I don't want your knight. I want a queen. And I believe this is drawn as well, but now white has to fight to keep the draw. So of course he just went king h2, rook g4, and agreed for a draw. Now the thing is that for h2, he doesn't have to play knight to h4 check. He could play king g2. The idea is that after rook to f1, so attacking the bishop, and you cannot eat me because I'm queening, and you cannot eat here because I eat the bishop. White could have played the move knight to g3. And the thing is that now when you push the pawn for a queen, the knight is taking it, and we are threatening the rook, so the rook has to move away. And I mean, let's say by example, rook. Okay, if rook g1 check, if I take, yes, king g5, and this is a draw. But I'm not forced to take the rook. I can take the pawn on h2. And now if you play king g5, bishop takes g1, king takes g4, this is a winning endgame. The bishop and the knight together can checkmate. So you cannot go rook g1, so you go by example rook d1, white take the pawn, king to g5, king to h3, so protecting the pawn, rook d3, and bishop c5. And now white threats to play bishop e7 check, and is applying some real pressure on the black side. So maybe king f4. Maybe black can still hold the draw somehow. King to h4 now, so you cannot take because of bishop d6 check. Well, you see, it's a very complicated position. So the thing is that after knight f5, if you don't go knight h4 and but king g2, I could not find a way for black to get the g4 pawn. So if you guys find something, you can write me in the comment, because it's a very interesting position, and I'm curious if Mamedyarov missed a chance to apply some pressure at the end, because if you can win the h2 pawn, then it's not easy for black to defend, because the pawn is going forward, and it's I mean, it's an hard task to make the draw then for black. Well, don't hesitate to write in the comment. Don't hesitate to share the video, to like it. I know a lot of you are liking the video, so I'm pretty glad about that. But still, I'm saying that. Thank you for your loyalty and all the likes and shares you put. It's really helped the channel growing. So have a nice day, and see you for the second game of the quarterfinal. Bye bye.